Welcome to Stew Stories. Today's story is about something our family has always loved: cooking and eating. Now, whether you love to cook isn't really the question. The real question is, how much do you love good cooking? Because our mom, who everybody called PB, was the best home cook I've ever been around. I know everyone says that about their moms, but in this case, I'm not alone. Anyone who ever ate at our house would tell you the same thing. And that didn't happen by accident. Mom grew up in a small mill village, which isn't so small anymore, called LaGrange, Georgia. Her father, Jimmy, was an Army vet. He didn't see much action overseas, but he sure did in LaGrange. And that's another story for another day. But he worked at the local mill, the Calumet Mill, I think, as a supervisor, I think, making about $1 a day. So, no, they were not rolling in dough. Her mom, Lucille, was a nurse. I believe she met Granddaddy while working at an army hospital. She was an amazing woman, known for volunteering in nursing homes and caring for people in neighborhoods that at a time when other folks didn't go into those neighborhoods and should have. And on top of all that, she was a fabulous Southern cook. No formal training, just the ability to make a family meal with almost nothing, literally rubbing two nickels together. Mom also had a brother named Billy Ray, who we knew simply as Uncle Billy. He was a total stud, a Navy frogman, what we now call a Navy SEAL, and he even retrieved astronauts from the ocean. Later in life, he became a real professional chef. I can still picture his standing rib roast right this second. As pretty as anything you've ever seen. And trust me, we loved it. Mom's call. Mom's cooking started in that little house in LaGrange. She learned how to make what were probably the best biscuits a human could ever eat. They weren't big and fluffy like a McDonald's biscuits. They were way smaller and flatter, but about 1,000 times better. She learned how to fry chicken and, honestly, just about anything that could be fried. Then, in the 1950s, she met our dad, and everything changed. They got married in 1957, and Mom's cooking evolved right along with their life together. There is a funny story that she told us about the very first time she made gravy for him. She set the table, and they sat down to eat, and Dad grabs the gravy boat to pour some in, and it had congealed. But Dad didn't miss a beat. He sliced some of it off and told her it was amazing. Now, it's hard not to go off on a tangent about Dad right there, but there'll be plenty of stew stories about him. This one's about Mom and how she became so incredible in the kitchen. Dad was a self-made executive with Napa Auto Parts, which meant we moved a lot as he got promoted. My brothers Lee and Hollis were born in Atlanta. I was born in New Orleans, and Brother Bill was born in San Francisco. And then we're back to Atlanta. However, Dad was an executive with Napa Auto Parts, which meant we moved around a lot as he got promoted. My brothers Lee and Hollis were born in Atlanta. I was born 6 years later in New Orleans. And then we moved to San Francisco, where my brother Bill was born. And then we were back to Atlanta, then to Louisville, Kentucky. And finally, back to Georgia, where most of us live today, and where Mom and Dad both passed. Through all of that, Mom became an expert entertainer. You never knew when Dad would call on the way home and say, "Hey, honey, Duffer and Donnie B are coming over for dinner after golf," or "Mr. Hatcher's in town. Let's have him over for dinner." And somehow she always pulled it off. Along the way, Mom took cooking classes in New Orleans and later in San Francisco. So now you have Southern cooking blended with New Orleans Creole mixed with San Francisco Italian. That's a tough combination to beat. One of my favorite examples of her talent was in 1982 when my oldest brother Lee got married to Sally in Louisville. Mom hosted the rehearsal dinner at our house for probably about 40 people. She served this incredible dish inside pineapples cut in half. I mean, who does that? In Louisville, Kentucky? For real. Just saying. But what we loved most wasn't the fancy meals. It was that we could have friends over anytime. One friend or 10. It didn't matter. Mom would figure it out. Breakfast could turn from 4 people into 8 or 10 real quick. And suddenly she'd be making chip beef on toast, eggs, sliced tomatoes, or homemade biscuits with bacon, eggs, and grits. Not gourmet necessarily, just perfect. At dinner, friends were shocked, not just because the food was so good, but because they could have more. They were like, "You mean I can have another pork chop?" Well, that was Mom. Everyone was going to eat, and eat well. Sometimes she even made people try things they didn't like. One time, one of Lee's buddies told her he didn't like zucchini. Well, in our house, you had to at least take one bite of everything. Well, let's just say it didn't work out for him. But he never complained because he didn't want to. He didn't want to risk his next plate. We gave him grief about that for years. One other thing that always happened at our table, and still does, was the clap at the end of the blessing. That started when my brother Bill was about 6 years old. And one night, Mom or Dad or one of us asked Bill to say the blessing. Problem was, he didn't know it yet. So instead of embarrassing him, we all said it together. When we finished, everybody clapped, just naturally, like, "Nice job, Bill." Well, about 2 months later, we asked him again. This time, he said the whole thing by himself. And when he finished, we clapped again. The next night, Bill said the blessing once more, but this time, nobody clapped. He looked up and confused and honestly a little upset. So we clapped. And from that night on, we always clapped. Didn't matter who said the blessing or frankly where we were. I'm pretty sure everyone in our family still does it today. It was never really about the prayer so much, but it was about the encouragement and being together. Around that table was a safe place, and that was Mom. One of the greatest gifts Mom ever gave us was her personal cookbook. Now, some pages were literally typed on a typewriter. Later, she went on to a computer and added pictures. I'll still use that cookbook at least once a week. And I'm sure my brothers do too. Whether it's trying and failing to recreate her biscuits or making veal marsala and following her exact ingredients. What made it special was how she wrote the recipes. She'd say things like, when you're making the biscuit dough, it will start to talk to you. And I was like, that might be out of my league, Mom. For years, I told her, you left something out of that recipe. She said, no, I didn't. And eventually, I realized what it was.